Heidi ho. So now I plan on doing my follow up to yesterday's video where I summarized all the games that I played since a year ago, which is the anniversary of when I signed up for Xbox Game Pass. The point of this second follow up video is to to demonstrate like, okay, Game Pass, great value, you get games for free, but the benefits twofold where I find when games are made freely available, it also affects my spending habits because now it's like okay, it certainly seems like it's not worthwhile to pay full price or the launch full price of a game when so many games are made available for free. So I can't, and I'm the kind of guy who I don't need to play them right away. I can wait for games to come down, down, down in price. So now here I'm just trying to paint the full picture. I'm like, okay, here's what I play on Game Pass, but here are also all the games that I paid for during the year. Um, but also mention free to play games. Um, and I was about to suggest that also there's other avenues like Epic Game Stores gives out a game or two every week. But I don't recall playing any of those this year. I noticed watching, yesterday's video just to make sure the audio worked that I was a bit inarticulate, too excited. Maybe I didn't think of what I was gonna say about each game in advance. This time, I apologize for that. This video has a more hopeful, straightforward purpose. Hopefully, I'll stick to the point in which I'll mention all the games I purchased, why I purchased them, how much I paid for them. Um, with a summary in the end of generally speaking shows how much I have paid for video games this year and the juicy detail of what's the average or median price that I pay for video games. It may surprise you if you haven't seen the other videos from the previous years. And the first game I bought January 2nd was Disco Elysium: The Final Cut, which I don't think should come as a surprise why I bought it. It's highly regarded. Um, but as for myself, how long did I play it? I was surprised to see that as long as I did play it, I didn't play it long enough to acquire any achievements. So therefore, unfortunately, the true achievement site doesn't say how long I played it. I'm guessing 3 or 4 hours though. It felt very neat. It was very like you pick role playing stats. You're not necessarily certain how they're gonna pay off. And it's a lot of mysteries all happening at a single time, and not just a murder, but also who am I again? What's my where's my badge and my gun? uh, and how can I pay for my hotel this night? I got stuck pretty early on, and I think I was put off. And then I remember playing it again and going, okay, well, avoid this over here. I think I made just like a series of bad rolls, which perhaps would have advanced the story had I succeeded. Um, and then I don't know, I didn't get back into it, and it has been uninstalled for a while. And I paid $17.46. I think that was a game I had on the watch list for a long time. Because yeah, this well you'll see, but like $20 is a fine enough price to play for a game is gonna be excellent. And I was just waiting and waiting for this one, and eventually got it for $17.46, including tax. The next game I bought this year was Leisure Suit Larry: Wet Dreams Dry Twice, which is a sequel to a game which I hadn't played. In fact, I never played. It dawned on me. I never played any Leisure Suit Larry game. Like I do vaguely recall hearing, like when I was a kid, that like we had text-based adventure games. Hugo's House of Horrors comes to mind. Police Quest, Space Quest, King's Quest, but I was most familiar with Police Quest. But the rumors we heard is like, oh, this game is Leisure Suit Larry games are similar to that, where they have if you try to play it as a kid, like every time you boot up the game, it'll ask you like 20 questions only old adults would know. This was long before the internet. So all I knew was that it was risque and there were a bunch of them. So hopefully that means that they're going to be quality. Uh, but and yeah, I found that as a point and click mystery goes, I've played much better ones. Dawn of the Tentacle comes to mind. I think I played it last year, maybe 2 years ago. But I persevered and played through this as an achievement. Unfortunately, I had to play the game through twice. So I managed to get 18 hours out of me for the price of $5.81. I've since seen that I could buy the prequel; it's gone on sale, or you could buy both for a good price as well. But I don't think I will. Third game I bought or purchased is Disney Classic Games, Aladdin and The Lion King together at last. Um, for which I purchased for $10.18, which is pretty good for two classic SNES or Sega Genesis, if that was your thing. Games that otherwise, how would you play or find them? I'm sure the original copies would be much more pricey or not. I think I managed to play some of Aladdin, which I didn't have as a kid, and maybe I played Lion King and got stomped on. I think some of my neighbors may have had this game. Um, but yeah, no, it's certain. I kind of like games now where they have these collections where they know these games are brutal. So let's just go. Hey, you want to play them? We get them, but you want to have a good time. So let's throw in a rewind function, which you know what I don't think is too cheaty personally. Like some of these games are impossible, and they kind of the replay value was in the day was you're supposed to fail, but it's just like I got things I games I want to play. I don't want to just make this the game I play all year. Um, so I probably will try Lion King later. But yeah, good solid collection, and I appreciate same with the Cowabunga collection of last year. They got multiple versions of these games. So you can try, the one you're familiar with, or any new ones that is like, oh wow, SNES version's way different. What are they doing? It's wacky. Um, let's see. Fourth game I purchased is Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, which is, to my understanding, just the one of the DLCs from Borderlands 2, and they just made it its own standalone game. Borderlands 2, I think, is safe to say the best Borderlands game so far, and this was perhaps the best DLC of that game. I think I purchased this because we did play Tiny Tina's Wonderlands game last year, which that was the game I certainly waited was until it was a reasonable price as well. Um, and I think I had the most fun playing it after I was done. Like I'd beaten the game and then learned, oh, some of my friends play it together. Um, like they get on Discord, they have a call, and they live on different continents, and they play this one game. Not the greatest, but it's enough. It's a game where you can have a conversation, shoot the shit, and shoot and loot. Good, clean fun. Let's see. But so I paid. So I was hoping, I was thinking, okay, once we beat out Wonderland, the next logical thing is one of the two other players might go, hey, why don't we play this game next? So I thought, I'll just have it preloaded, ready to go. Or I don't know about them, but I didn't end up playing. It was $7.83. I purchased a bundle of 3 games. Redeemer Enhanced Edition, Nine Monkeys of Shaolin, and Ashes of God. Seemingly, at least Nine Monkeys of Shaolin is a good game. I wouldn't know. Like I had it installed for a while. I don't think of the others, which might be fine as well. But I seemingly recall hearing that Nine Monkeys of Shaolin was a good game. Um, but all 3 games though were $2.99 after tax. Why not? Why not? Panarium, another cheap game, $2.23. Since I played it for 4 hours, I thought it was longer than that. I really enjoyed myself. It was a pretty straightforward. Well, the story is you're some kid who joins the circus, and only to find that like the evil ringmaster, puts you through these tests. Like it's just platforming where dodge obstacles for as long as you can. I think yeah, in each level is like you'd be on like a bunch of stages with platforms, and like rockets would fire at you, spikes would pop out of the ground, other traps of the sort. And I think you had to like run around this platform or the stage. It was single screen, um, and coins would appear like one at a time. Like once you collect one, another one would appear. And you beat the level by collecting 10 coins without dying. And as you play, the challenges got progressively harder. With another mode for multiple levels at a time, but you got power ups. Uh, and yeah, 223. That was a bargain. But I really thought I played for longer than 4 hours, but maybe it was just over the course of a weekend. I had good, clean fun. I purchased the last camp. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, I guess I was on a bit of a spree. The bundle of 3 games, Panarium, Last Campfire, and the next game I all purchased on February 20th. Um, like I'm saying though, for a combined $11 for 7 games. Um, yeah. So I think there must have been a good or so. So I should probably also take a moment, take a pause, take a breath to point out how it is that I buy games. Because you might think you got Game Pass, you're covered. How are you finding these games anyway, and especially so cheap? And what I tend to do, I don't really follow gaming news in terms of like what's on the horizon, aside from the occasional event like the Game Awards, which was last week. Um, but what I tend to do, so even though like yeah, I have games to play, always, every Tuesday, I'll go into the Xbox store, or in the like not a on my console, and I'll just go to the deals tab. Tuesday, I think, is like they have weekly sales every week. That's redundant. But I think it's on Tuesdays that they tend to like the next deals come into play. Plus the occasional special event sale or holiday related sale. Um, but there's a very easy way to just go like deals, and then sometimes instead of clicking on the individual deals, you can just find a section that's just like all the games that are marked down this week or right now. Yeah, and I'll just scroll through and see, and just it's just pictures and prices. And a lot of them, it is funny. Like it'll just say like, oh, instead of showing you the price, it'll say you already own this game, or it's installable because it's on Game Pass, or you already own it through Games with Gold. So it is kind of neat as you're scrolling through games. So you see a constant reminder of like you could buy something new, but you have tons of games. You don't have to buy anything. They kind of I feel like they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, but at the same time, like it is for the benefit of the consumer, so that's good. But then also you can click on things to find out what the price was to buy it as a gift. Um, and yeah, one thing I started doing this year was like if I buy a game, like there's also the wish list. Like even though like okay, here's a game like let's say Disco Elysium: The Final Cut, where I know I'm gonna want to buy it eventually. I'm just gonna wait till it's on a good price. You can wish list it so that there's a shortcut. Just be like any of these games on my wish list on sale. Hey, this one is. Oh, I'll pay that much. Sure. I've gotten to a new habit this year where after I've purchased a game, um, if and I haven't played it yet, I'll just keep it on the wish list. So whenever I look through the wish list, that's a reminder of hey, you have some games you've already bought and haven't played yet, so maybe you don't have to buy anymore. Just if you see a good deal, fine. But so that's just what I do. And then yeah, as I scroll through the sales, typically what I do, especially if it's something I've never heard of before, or if I see a good price, it's like okay, or the cover art looks uh, decent, it draws me in, then I typically just Google, this game reviews and also go true achievements, name of the game, just to see what the achievements are like, see an estimate of how long it takes to complete the game, how difficult the achievements are, if the achievements are broken and such, compared to the reviews, compared to the price. That's how I make my decisions. And then sometimes I'll also look there's a handy series about like, oh, before you buy, you might want to know this or that. So yes, I'm constantly looking through the game store, but only in the deal section. So I really have no idea what comes out or what's new for the most part. The last campfire, $4.47. maybe I bought it to feed my achievement addiction because it looked like it had a small runtime, which I did manage to beat and get through. And it was a charming game where you're this bag spirit who goes and you see these campfires and you go solve problems, platforming, moving, sliding puzzles, that kind of stuff. Um, and sometimes you save these little guys who all meet together at these campfires, and you're the last light of hope for these things, and it's very charming and cozy and cute and not too scary. Not scary at all. But yeah, $4.47 for 6 hours. Which, when I said that out loud, it's kind of like I often do better than that, but seemingly I was on a spree. And then the last game I bought on February 20th was Obliteracers, which I purchased for $1.56 after tax, and that's worth it for the title alone. Obliteracers, that's brilliant. It's a game you start off in a race of like 12 different cars, and you're all kind of driving along on the same screen on the same as a group, and if you fall behind, you get eliminated or obliterated, and also you can pick up weapons to obliterate others. And for the most part, it's a matter of staying with the pack, or if you try fast enough that everyone else falls behind, they just get destroyed. Good game. It's fun, arcadey. Certainly nothing I'm like, oh, I got to keep playing this. And seemingly, I could have sworn I played it multiple times throughout the year, but seemingly I've only played it for an hour and a half. But that's still decent for $1.56, and I'm pretty sure I've kept it installed this entire time. I said I don't really follow game news, but I go to trueachievements.com all the time, or usually for the most part you get stuff about like, oh, what's being added to Game Pass. This game's coming out, where the achievements like. But sometimes you read an article where it's like, hey, the Crew 2. Oh, am I? Oh, well. Never. I'm getting ahead of myself. Or maybe I heard about this in an article, but or maybe I just saw it in a sale. Titanfall 2 Ultimate Edition, so I imagine it includes some DLC, whether it's stories or missions. It could just be skins. Didn't matter really. I have actually not played any Titanfall games, although I think I have Titanfall behind me, and even after that, it's since I think it was on Games with Gold even too. But I've heard these are good games. Bought Titanfall 2 Ultimate for $2.24. So yeah, of the categories of reasons I buy games, like play them, obviously. Sometimes I'll pick them up because I'm like, oh, this might make a good game for PAX Carry, play with friends, party games and such, games I like. But also sometimes it's just like, but value. Although it's not necessarily value if you don't, take advantage or like actually play the game eventually. But sometimes it's like, hey, maybe I'll pick this up one day, play through the campaign, and be like, yeah, that was worth $2 some years ago. Hopefully. And if not, oh well. I I don't know about this year, but certainly in previous years, I've been thinking of putting in my budget a category of purchases where it's just like probably shouldn't have. What a waste of money. Oh well. But then you don't really want to harp on that too long. McPixel 3 I purchased for $2.86. Oh yeah, I guess here's another category of like why I would sometimes I want to pay money out of respect. It's only $2.86, but I do hope that some of the proceeds, I imagine like a portion of it goes to Microsoft. Hopefully some of that $2.86 goes to the brilliant people who made this game, or one person, I don't know. The games these days, you don't know. Sometimes it's just one person. Wait for the next game. 286. This game is still on Game Pass, but sometimes it's like, hey, maybe it'll get removed from Game Pass. I'll be glad I bought it. But this, yeah, 280. This is like, here's a tip jar. You earned this game. This might have been one of the PAX Carry games of the PAX Carries one year. Not that I played it much since. I was hoping that that's what we did one year. Is like, hey, we're in between panels. Let's play this McPixel game. One of us is playing. It's a single player game, but it's hilarious, and everyone sitting around was like trying to suggest like, oh, try this, oh, do that. That's got to be the solution. And people in the other rooms were like, what is? Why is it? Everyone's having so much fun over there. Highly recommend. Speaking of games made, hey, look, it's one of the Game of the Year nominees, Balatro, and yeah, certainly won Indie Game of the Year, possibly Mobile Game of the yeah, I think it won Mobile Game of the Year as well. Made by seemingly one Canadian, Local Thunk, who seems to be a class act. And this sounds like a Cinderella story, or maybe, well, Cinderella had magic. This person worked hard and seems very charming. The way this game was pitched to me, and yeah, let me hold on. Let me just well, did I? I don't know if it was on sale. No, maybe not. I think I was just talked into it and might be one of the 3 games this year I paid close to full price. um, I paid $21.27, but got 165 hours out of it, which I think is unquestionably the game I've played the most this year. So $21 deserved, well deserved. Um, the way this game was sold to me, I was at a pub somewhere, and Mike turns to me and he said, or he just wanted to tell me about this game, and he said, "Well, it's like a poker game, but not really poker. Like you don't really need to know poker. Also, there's math involved, but you don't have to do the math." And he looked at who he was talking to me. He's like, "But you probably want to do the math, don't you?" I'm like, "Yes, sir. I definitely want to do the math." And yeah, sure enough, when I picked it up on recommendation, it I did I even play a demo? No, although I could have. Well, I think I read a headline that was like, well, oh, they had to put a limit on the demo because people were only playing the demo again and again and again, and it's like, whoa, that's high praise. Um, so yeah, I probably shouldn't be saying Brotato is my favorite game of the year, but the reason I can't say it definitively, here's Exhibit A, is Balatru. Great game, which I eventually was just had to be like, okay, I think I'm getting as far as I'm gonna get. Some of these challenges are brutal, but the game has made itself more and more available over time. Uh, play the demo if you like it, buy it. But you don't necessarily have to buy it sight unseen. But if you had to buy it sight unseen, I'd still recommend it. I'd say take the risk. Um, and then the next game I bought, yeah, close to full price. Seemingly $90.71, which puts it at the most I paid for a game this year. Da, 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 is Baldur's Gate 3, which was Game of the Year last year. Nominated as well and then won. And yeah, there's a few games that come out where everyone's playing the game. I think like in recent years, it's been this, Tears of the Kingdom. Well, maybe Breath of the Wild. More people played than Tears. Animal Crossing because of the pandemic. Um, but I found everyone, even people who I didn't think that were that invested in video games or that good at video games or liked RPGs and that, everyone around me was talking about Baldur's Gate 3. But yeah, I was just waiting for it to go on sale, and it wasn't, and it wasn't, and I was finally like, let's see, when did I? Da, 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 da. March 8th. So, or sorry, April 4th. Okay, so this was after the March deadlines for me, and I think I want to reward myself and give myself like, hey, you work hard, you make money. Here's why. And I was very surprised. I did not enjoy this game as much as everyone else. Well, everyone loves it. Um, but I'm saying, everyone was playing it, and everyone was saying like, "Oh wow, it's so amazing! I'm doing this, I'm trying this, I'm playing multiple playthroughs where I do this and do this and this, and it's amazing, Kerry. You can do so many things. Ah, cool beans." So then I played it, and you start off, and something bad happens to your character and some of your nearby allies right away. And it seemed to me like, okay, cool. So the story of the game, the main mission is deal with this very immediate problem. So I eventually meet NPCs in the game, and they have their own problems. So I'm like, sorry, I have a very urgent and immediate and deadly concerning problem of my own. So I'm not gonna focus on you. Sorry. I just need someone to help me, and I'll help them if they need help, but I need someone to help me now. And I just, by complete accident, made all the worst decisions. Like, I started playing by accident, like an evil timeline, and instead of allying myself with an evil character, I killed them because they were evil. So I ended up inadvertently turning my back on people I should help and who would help me, and I was just struggling and making all the worst, but like, I'm a game, I'm just like, how is everyone else having a great time with this game? Um and then and then I just, stopped, found other games to play until the new player's handbook came out in D&D, and I was reading through it, reading closely some of the player classes, and then I was just like, you know what? Maybe I got to give Baldur's Gate 3 another chance. Started a new playthrough with a new class, a warlock, whereas I previously started with a wizard, which I was so torn. What class do I start with? And then I just, you're a wizard, Kerry, came to mind. So I played a wizard, and now I'm just doing the different. I'm doing warlock. I'm having allies who are just go in and do heavy damage right away. And I realize there are so many opportunities to heal in this game. I was starving my play one characters by like not resting enough. Just because, my own interpretation of what should happen in a D&D day kind of differs from like, yeah, but you can, you have a tough fight, rest. I'm like, no, I have a day's worth of fights. So I don't know. So now, yes, now that I kind of get it, I'm kind of familiar with what's going on, and I realize some of the bad decisions I made, and I'm playing more like letting myself have an easier time. I'm having way more fun. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and so far I've played Baldur's Gate 3 for 86 hours this year, which might be the second most played, possibly Brotato. Mad Max. I don't know how long I played. A few hours. Um, this game, I don't know. It passed my radar. Like, I didn't hear of it pick it up, but it got pretty good reviews. I think some people were saying, like, it's a pretty dead game now, but I think this, like, of the years, it was a contender for their game of the year. It sounded like an open world game where combat kind of seemed reminiscent, if not inspired by, the Batman games. So yeah, I really like the Arkham games. I like open world. Got it. Reached a bit, and other stuff came up. I'm not entirely sure what. I got 46 of 1,000 gamer score in it. Paid $8.38. I might go back to it someday. Let's let's see. Next game I bought. This was for $2.23. The Misadventures of PB Winterbottom, which I bought 2 days after Mad Max on sale. A 360 game, backwards compatible. This guy is a funny little guy with a big nose and a top hat, and he's chasing after pies. Um, and it was a game, once again, I've never heard of, but I was at a party recently where someone was describing a game with VR where you do an action, record yourself, walk away, and then there'll be a clone of someone doing that action. And they're like, "Oh, I don't think there's any game ever like that." And then someone else is like, "No, that kind of reminds me of the Adventures of PB Winterbottom." I'm like, how'd you what? But that was exactly it. So in this game, you're a guy, he likes pies, and somehow he's got the ability to like create clones of himself. So you kind of like, I don't know why I'm reminded of Braid, which had rewind functionality. Maybe Braid did this as well, but like you kind of hit a rewind button, do an action that lasts, I don't know, up to 10 seconds, let's say, and then you release the button, and then a clone will appear and just do that action on loop, and then you can interact with them to like if you smack them they'll go flying, but then they kind of lose track of like their action and then disappear. Or if you like do a smacking action and record it, then your clone will smack, and then if you jump there, you'll get smacked away. So tons of puzzles, getting pies, play through the story, but then it got to the like after the game, there were trials, time trials, and also see how many of these puzzles, or so try to solve these puzzles under as quickly as you can, and also, I mean, you could go after one challenge at a time, as few clones as possible. And I was kind of just like, I don't know, puzzles should be satisfying enough to just get you through. Like, hey, can I solve this? Not can I solve this and test myself? Like, pick a lane, pick a lane. I didn't like it was too much, so I just like, you know what, I got half the achievements, I'm good. For $17.96, I bought a questionable game, but I got 60 out of. Wait, hold on. Now hold on. Oh, that was right. Okay. Misadventures of PB Waterbottom, Sunset Overdrive. Which may very yes, this timeline makes sense. This very well meant the game that distracted me from Mad Max. Because Mad Max I bought June 2nd, and June 11th I bought the deluxe edition of Sunset Overdrive, which as I explained yesterday, kind of poorly. I don't know, what was this guy talking about? Was a game that was available on Games with Gold, and I wanted to play for the longest time, and when I did, I had so much fun. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy the DLC for $11.19. Fortunately, I don't really have a track of how long I played the game total, maybe like 30 hours. The DLC itself, I don't know. But they weren't too long, but they were um, additions to the story, and they had good humor and more action and more upgrades, and I think specific guns to them. So worth playing for sure, worth adding. But they also have the caveat of they also have multiplayer required achievements. But oh well, what you do. So yeah, and that's another thing about Game Pass and free games that, on the one hand, you hope they don't do it too deliberately, like screw you over. But like, here's the thing that I would hope they consider doing more often. It's like, you know what? Make a solid game, make it free, and if it's good enough, or like you can get enough people to be like, oh yeah, this was a good game, then put out paid DLC, right? Then go, okay, I enjoyed this game for free. I want to support you. Game was good. Sure, I'll pay the DLC. That is a thing which I'd be in favor of more developers doing that. Um, and then a month after buying this DLC, I purchased Saints Row, the 2022 game, the Gold Edition. So yes, this was one because yeah, I don't know, Saints Row. I didn't start until 3, and then 4 was awesome. Get Out of Hell was great. And then this game came out long after, and everyone was like, boo, this game not as good, boo. But it was made available for free on the Epic Game Store, mentioned long before. And I played it on a computer which doesn't run big games so well. And I thought, okay, the gist of it, I get it, and I think it's fine. It's fine. But and then yeah, it runs so much better on the console, like using specs that are expected or however hardware. I don't know. Focus, Kerry, on your point. Yeah, and I 100%ed it. But yeah, yeah, heard it was bad, so I'm like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to get it right away. Oh, there's a gold edition. Well, I don't want to, wait until I buy the game at a reasonable price and then go, oh, the DLC. Contrary to what I just said. Um, but if there's a gold edition, which includes the DLC, I'll wait until that is a good price. So yeah, I think that means about 2 years later, it came down to $17.96, including the DLC. Woohoo! And I managed to get 60 hours out of the game and the DLC, 100% them all, and enjoyed myself. And I enjoyed myself. I think what's a little annoying about the game, like Saints Row. I'm talking having not played one, I played a little bit of two, and then yeah, 100%ed 3 and 4 and got out of hell. I think they kind of painted themselves in the corner, where they, the grandstandness of these games got bigger, 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 bigger. You become the head of the gang. You become the mayor of the crime lord of town. You become the president of the United States. You become the savior, like a superhero and savior of the world. Until you get into intergalactic travel, like what are you gonna go like Saints Row Starfield, let's say? What else are you gonna do? Like, I don't blame them for rebooting, right? But then yeah, choosing this location, which is just in a different place than what everyone's expecting, a lot more desert instead of just city, which is neat aesthetically. Um, but yeah, they lost their wacky, zany. It's certainly still ultra violent. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's still Saints Row, just not as purple. as you take off your purple glasses, I thought it was a perfectly fine game. And if they do more, I will I'll support it. Maybe not at full price, or wait till reviews. I purchased Jackbox Party Pack 10, which came out last year. Paid, but yeah, I think at the time, the packs prior to then showed off the game, and it was just like, okay, none of these games seem particularly good. There was the music rhythm game, which isn't or I don't know, do re mi. TKO, a sequel to that, which I was never really a fan of. Not until I started playing it on a computer over Discord, where I can pull out my tablet and like open up drawing inspirations and draw actually good things, not just scribbles off the top of my head. I revealed that. And yeah, I still haven't played this game. And when people come over, I think I even asked at the point like, "Hey, does anyone want to try Jackbox 10?" We were like, "No, we want rapping robots." And some of my other favorites, don't get me wrong, were more water cooler game, and the Blather On has become a new sensation. But none of these are in Jackbox 10. But I still will buy them all, even though since then they've released Survey Scramble and a Naughty Pack I haven't bought yet. But yeah, people come over, they're like, "Yo, I have good things about this," and they're on sale. I will indulge almost inevitably. Peglin, well, I was about to say a lie. It's like, well, I was gonna say it's the only game I bought on PC, but no, it's the game I've spent the most time on PC. Because I don't play computer much. 44 hours, and I paid $16.54. It's probably about 20% off when I did. It's a great game that plays like Peggle, and a lot like a game that was one of my game. Yeah, was my game of the year. If not last year, the game or year before called Round Guard, which is very RPG slash Peggle. So in this, yeah, you essentially are a goblin, and bad guys are kind of scrolling towards you, uh, in a turn-based fashion. That is a good uh, thing about this game, is it's very like you don't have to be actively focused on it. You can take turns in between watching or doing something else. As if you're supposed to be busy and doing something. um, and you do damage to these enemies who are coming at you, by you drop a ball into a peglin, and the more pegs you hit, the more damage you do. And you can buy special orbs. I'm not gonna say balls, um, and level up these orbs. And you're essentially building a deck, so to speak, of these orbs. So you don't necessarily want to buy all the orbs, or you want to focus on getting the real good ones and leveling them up. And if you focus on minimize how many orbs you have, then your good ones become more frequent. And there's different classes to unlock, which were very hard. Well, first one, I've really had to play runs and focus on I'm trying to get this and not win necessarily. And like most roguelikes, no, this one's a rogue. Yeah, there's not too much. Each run is for the most part independent of each other. But as you beat an ascension level, more ascension levels, which are harder to unlock, but you're not really leveling up in between runs. They take me about 90 minutes per, it's 3 dungeons, so to speak, or world or map sections. Um, and then I'm usually good to play it once and then call it a day. Um, but yeah, plenty. It's pretty good. I can see myself playing that or having this available for a long time, and it's also available on mobile. Greg really likes this game. Hi, Greg. I purchased Saints Row the Third Remastered. Normally, I don't care about games that are remastered, especially as someone who doesn't really get rid of games. Well, or someone who doesn't really play games twice a lot. Um, all my best 360 games are available in my living room in a trunk. All the best Nintendo games I ever have are here. Well, I just gave my brother our N64 and GameCube recently, but all the best of the best Wii U games are here, Switch games, so on. So it's kind of like, why should I pay you, especially if they're going to charge full price? That's what gets my goat. Is sometimes they oh, it's prettier now. Give us more, and there's no discount. And I think that's dumb. But okay, this used to be. Here's the thing: the Saints Row 2022 Gold Edition used to have this included in it, as part of the bundle and reason to buy it. I noticed at some point they're like, nah, keep it separate. So I think I didn't intend to buy this anyway. But then $8.95, I'm like, yeah, I can see myself wanting to replay Saints Row the Third. And now I'm kind of I bought it July 30th. I'm like, it's probably been cheaper since then. Oh well. Nexomon Extinction is the sequel to Nexomon, which is, well, it feels like a mobile game that is very clearly heavily inspired. Is a nice way of saying. Someone took a crack at Pokemon and created entirely, I think 300 new Nexomon. I don't know what Nexo's short for. They may have said it once. Um, and yeah, I say it feels like a mobile game. It's just, but it works. It's good. It's monsters. They'll have no 4 attacks. There's like 10 or 15 uh, damage types that work in a logical rock paper scissors. And yeah, I played the first game, really enjoyed it, 100%ed it, and then like within a few days, bought the sequel for $10.18. I do see that the bundle of both of them goes on sale, and it's like 12. It's like it's too bad I didn't buy both at once. But the first game was a gamble, so whatever. Um, Despite only receiving 9% of the achievements of the game, seemingly I played it for 6.5 hours. Um, and yeah, if nothing else it is a game I can, aside from having to jump in and be like, what next one do I have again? Pretty easy to just like jump in if I know like, oh, I just want to play a game for hours and um, grind and level up and catch new Pokemon. Or like just go into areas and go like, I don't think I've been here. I'm just gonna walk around and see if any new Pokemon next one show up. Pay $10.18. I purchased for $5 after tax. Rift tracks the game. Now I don't want to say because I couldn't tell you the order that these games came out, but if though at least how I know of them is like Jackbox, and then that was big, and then that inspired Use Your Words by Brental Floss, um, which is the point of it is like it's a bunch of games that you play on your phone where there are prompts that are provided and you enter your witty response, or you can use their own if you're not um, feeling too witty yourself or have no joke related to what's on screen. We played User Words, and our favorite one was like it was like I think it was straight up called like Sub the Title, where we play a clip from an old film, a piece of dialogue's missing, you type in the dialogue that you think is hilarious, and we'll get votes. We wished like, oh, if only there was a game that was just that. So we found What the Dub, and Ben liked it quite a bit. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. Like just focusing on that. Rift Tracks the game is exactly that too. With a brand using the branding of I don't know about popular, but IP that exists. Um, I don't believe there was anything here aside from different clips themselves. That was an improvement over What the Dub. But hey, you don't know. Maybe there would have been. Um, Actually, it's fun to look at. When did I buy these games? Um, yeah, certainly. And also, yeah, some of these. This is now August, end of August. So maybe this is the time I'm looking through the games and having a more open eye open for like, hey, what are games that might be interesting to try at PAX Kerry? I don't know why I brought that up now because so so there's a little spree here as well. For 461, I purchased Picto Quest: The Cursed Grids. Murdered by Numbers is a game that you play per cross, and there's a murder mystery. Picto Quest is this one without our murder mysteries, so it's not as polished. Um, but yeah, the idea being you play Picross, or it might also be known as Nonogram. That's what I have on my phone. That's a good app for free. Lots of ads, but I almost feel like I should just give them the $5 for no more ads. Maybe I will someday. Maybe I won't. Not looking back at it, 461 might be a bit much, but at least I got all the achievements out of it, and it was very predictable ones where if I needed an achievement, here you go. just play for 20 minutes. Um, yeah, so far got 8.5 hours. I'm sure I'm almost done. It's maybe 10. So it's not bad, but there are free alternatives on your phone. Oh, and it kind of looks like it's not really an RPG. It's just a matter of like you're doing a pick cross, and if you manage to complete an entire row or column, I thought I had that wrong, but it's not right. You hit an enemy who not only they lose some health, but they are on a timer and they're gonna hit you if it's full. But if you hit them, then that timer resets. So it if it hits full, then they hit you and you lose some health. You also lose health if you fill in a square wrong. So and there are potions. So here I am saying like, oh, it's not a big deal, but I get what else? What more could they actually have done? I have no ideas, but it just seemed a need to have like an action RPG or pick cross, but with a sword violence idea in it. Um, the solitaire conspiracy. Speaking of adding things to things that are freely available. No. This was $2.14. I'm willing to hear you out if you have like, yo, we took solitaire and we made a compelling and completely different game out of it. Well, I'm suddenly reminded of Balatro, although this game probably came out before. I don't know, but Solitaire Conspiracy yeah, it's got this neat story out of it where, there's spy networks and different gangs of spies, um, espionage, blah, blah, blah. And every time you make an ally with one of these gangs, you get like a deck of their cards. And all you're trying to do, Solitaire, the whole point of it is like a bunch of cards are mixed up in a deck, and you just try to sort them out so you can play them all in the sorted four rankings. Um, so in this, when you're given a gang's deck, or I guess it's only the 13 cards, ace through king. Um, so you try to play solitaire. I think that's all you gotta say. But each gang, like their face cards, Jack, Queen, King. Each gang has a special ability when you play the cards, and each mission you play is essentially a game of solitaire. Um, but when you select the mission, you can. There's two options. One is just like play it and try to win. But I always opted for the second, harder option of like play it and win within so many moves. Ooh. And yeah, I really enjoyed myself. But then it got harder, and then oddly enough, some of the gangs you get in the later game, let's see. Oh, seemingly I didn't even get half the achievements. I don't think I even. Well, I think they said like it's 15 chapters, and maybe I reached 7 or 8. Sorry, some of the gangs later on, their abilities, I'd read them and be like, but that's not good. That's a detriment. So I kind of be like, okay, well, I'll try to stack you last, if anything, because you kind of ruin things and use up turns that I don't want to use up. It was neat, and I enjoyed myself and was satisfyingly challenged until I guess it got too hard, maybe, or maybe I just um, got distracted. 88 heroes. So this is yes. Hold on. No, okay, this is a couple days later. I bought 88 heroes for $1.66. This was a funny game, a little reminiscent of Broforce. The idea being, where Broforce, the joke is, haha, bro, this is how many times can we put 88 in the game? Um, the premise being like, oh, here's aliens and they're attacking. But all the good superheroes are busy. Thankfully, we have the 88 heroes who you don't get to choose. Which, well, not in the So like 88 heroes come to save the day. The goal is to beat through 88 levels. And you have these 88 heroes, which essentially works as 88 lives each level. You got to beat within 88 seconds. Um, and yeah, the controls, yeah, for it's just A to jump, but each character, each one of these heroes has like different ways that they behave. I see there's a gerbil here and a bubble who can just roll over enemies. Uh, you got this Rick Astley character here who I think, yeah, starts singing and dancing, which maybe distracts all the enemies on screen. Some heroes are way more effective than others. Uh, some move like you're playing the game, or this one guy moves like I'm playing the game Snake. Some obey gravity, some don't, some throw rockets, some slice a sword, some have no fighting capabilities. Um, and yeah, you're just trying to survive through these platforming levels. And I was having a good time in this until I got like the second world. Suddenly there was these levels where they were shooting bombs in a pattern that I just couldn't get by. And I think in one level I lost like 40 heroes. Um, I may choose to persevere. Otherwise, I got plenty of laughs out of my $1.66. Starcrossed was a game I purchased for $4.29, and we played this at PAX Kerry, Clinton and I mostly. Um, it is a game like like Overcooked, which seemingly can be played on one controller, but no, we have two controllers. It's fine. Where your two heroes, like you get five characters, you get your choice. You pick two to play through the story or arcade and so on. And as you're floating through space, there's like a star bouncing between you two, and like not like Pong. I was gonna say like Pong, but no. The star, if you move, the star will find you and bounce. And like as it hits you, you can like push a button in time to like hit it back so it goes faster and does. The point is, you're trying to hit enemies who are flying through space by like flying around them, so that when the star bounces between your two characters, it hits the enemies. And sometimes the enemies will have like they'll put up a shield on one side, so it's like, okay, well, you got to make sure the star bounces, and then you hit them from the exposed side, kind of thing. Um, we played for an hour. We beat the story. The achievements require you to beat with all of the story with all combinations of characters, so that's gonna take a while. Tried playing solo, and even like you could play like one stick each, but it my brain hurt. I just didn't have the reflexes I need. Multi. I need two people to play through this. Very surprising. $9.09. I'm actually yeah. This was a game I saw and I saw it was on sale once. So I'm like, okay, I'll wait till that comes down, down, down in price. And I think I could have waited longer. I paid $9.09. But I think I was just intrigued by the idea. Dungeonoid 2 Awakening, where it's that game, I think like Breakout, or maybe the Dungeonoid is a play on what the is it Arkanoid? I don't know. But I'm thinking Breakout, where like you got to paddle like Pong again, and like there's you got a ball bouncing on stage, and you're trying to make sure the ball doesn't hit the bottom of the screen as you try to hit all the bricks in a shape. It's essentially that gameplay, but you're on like a side-scrolling stage, or sometimes up and down, but and enemies show up, and you can't advance like it'll in the level until you knock out all the enemies. And I'm like, and you choose a classic character who they either do more damage or your paddle has more speed and they have magic things. So I'm like, that sounds baller, thinking that maybe you level up and stuff. But then actually playing the game is a little frustrating because sometimes, oh yeah, so sometimes you break bricks and power ups fall. It's like, okay, well, that's great, but I can't catch that. If the ball's about to land over here, I have to catch it. Similar thing when you're fighting enemies. It's kind of like, well, all I can really do is make sure that the ball that's bouncing around doesn't hit the bottom of the screen. And sure, if you hit the left side, it'll bounce off to the left. If it hits the center, it'll bounce more vertically up. If you have some control, but for the most part, it's like when the enemies are throwing things at you, and it's like, oh, I should make sure to avoid the enemy's attack. It's like, well, I can't if my paddle has to be here in order to make sure the ball doesn't hit the bottom of the screen. So it's a neat idea, which I almost it doesn't really pay, or maybe I don't think I'm just bad. um, and the idea is neat. I fell for the idea. It just doesn't really pay off. So at $9.09, I think I paid too much. But played it for 3 hours, and yeah, I was playing it the other day. Um, and I don't know if I was just in a rush or something, but I was just like, I am not enjoying this. Um, Asteroids Recharged, another like, hey, you remember old video games, right? They were good, weren't they? Yeah. um, it's kind of like, well, I was gonna say like Geometry Wars Recharged, where yeah, it's just asteroids, but flashy and pretty with a co-op mode and a mode where yeah you can play like standard asteroids or the recharge version where there's power ups, and there's a mode where like there's challenges, and I think there's like maybe like 40 or 50 of them to complete. So it's like yay, asteroids. Um, I really liked Asteroids in university. We had an arcade machine in the library, and I would go and get the high score every morning just for fun. No one else. Well, it was an arcade machine that had like 50 arcade games in it, so I don't think anyone was like, "Hey, who keeps getting this high score? I care about that." So it wasn't like I was doing it competitively. It was just something to do because I was always early for class. Um, so this Asteroids and the next game were purchased during PAX Carry, so I don't think I bought them for PAX Carry. They just happened to be on sale. Although Pizza Possum, which I purchased for $5.02 and haven't played yet, saving it for a co-op opportunity. Was mentioned. Ben and I were watching the panel specifically about cozy games. I think maybe co-op game, or no, I think it may have even been like a hey, here's a bunch of indie games we want to talk about and highlight because we have an opportunity to do so. And we're like, cool, Pizza Possum. These people seem to like it. This was a game that I was talking about and then realized, whoops, wrong game. I don't, I don't really follow game news, but True Achievements must have had a headline at some point that was like, hey, The Crew 2 is available for $1. um, so I bought, or maybe US, so I got it for $1.57. Um, I think this would have been before I played Rider Republic, which was added to Game Pass. Okay, Riders Republic was September 11th, and I bought this September 10th, so right before. So yeah, Rider Republic with Ubisoft, open world sports game, which, as I described yesterday, is like, yeah, maybe racing games shouldn't be open world. But this sounds like it's exactly that. So maybe I will think twice about starting it. But yeah, that was just like, people are saying this is great. Why the heck not? Um, I mentioned yesterday Dead Cells, which is available on Game Pass, which I played years ago. Thought was good, but didn't quite grab me. But at some point, I'm like, you know what? I think maybe I saw the DLCs on sale. And I was like, you know what? This was a great game. I was annoyed by, you'd go to a door and be like, oh, you can't go through this door because you don't have the DLC. Saw this bundle for $8.38. So I bought it, and then yeah, played Dead Cell quite a bit for a week or two. So that was a good purchase. September 29th, I bought Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I went to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and tons of tables of video games, and this was the only one I had in mind of like, you know what? Yeah, if I see it at a good price, I'll buy it. It'll probably be used, but that's fine Because yeah, I think it's still like when it's on sale on the Xbox store, it's like 30-20 bucks. But like once again, it's a game that was out decades ago. So I managed to get for 10 USD. Um, and it is one of two physical games that I purchased this year. The other one, which falls for the second most I've paid for a game this year. Oops, didn't mean to zoom in there. Oh yes, Sonic Express Carrier 1 and 2. Yep, it's like the name says. Don't think they really added anything. Well, they have multiplayer, create a park, which has more. Well, I think already now people aren't playing online, which is oh well. Um, and there's very a lot of hard challenges where it's not just a matter of like, oh, beat the game, complete all the in level missions, get all gold. It's like no. Find all the gaps. Find all these specifically tailored hard gaps and play through the game with all 24 characters. And it's just like ugh. So it's gonna take me a while to get all the achievements. And otherwise, I think by now I would have handed this off to my brother, which I intend to do at some point. Um, but played for 22 and a half hours so far. Okay, second game, the second physical game that I bought this year, and it's the game which has cost me second. So second, I paid the second most Super Mario Party Jamboree, which I think like a week before it released, I was like, you know what? Sure, I'll pre-order it. Which reminds me of a topic that I forgot to get into. Something else that changed, which changed my gaming habits this year, or sorry, gaming and game purchase habits this year, is that in previous years, through work, around Christmas time, I would get an Amazon gift card for like $100, and what I would mostly spend that on, I would go to Amazon, I would buy like an Xbox, like I'd know like, hey, eventually I'm gonna buy games on the Xbox store. So every time I do that, why don't I just go to Amazon, buy myself an Xbox store gift card from this Amazon credit I have, and then just buy the game that way. And the kicker of doing that is like, oh, maybe you buy more games that way because A, they're essentially free using up a credit. Not free, because true, I could use that credit for almost anything like socks and pants, food, batteries, power, anything. Almost anything. Almost anything is my point. This year, though, I guess due to anti money laundering, you can't do that anymore. You can't spend Amazon gift card balances on other gift cards, which I think it's like. Well, I think it. Well, I at first I thought it was probably a matter of like, you know what? I'm sure out of all the things Amazon sells, they probably get the lowest profit margin off of gift cards. I don't know if that's like I have no idea. Um, but no, at some point I got the idea. I don't remember who told if like it said on the website or if someone suggested or if I looked it up like why can't I do this? Why isn't this working? Money laundering, which is just like it's one guy like it's me. Like you'd think they'd be able to look at the account and be like, okay, this person buys a reasonable person's amount of things. Like if they're doing this for $100. Who cares? But I'm sure they're just like good. If we have a reason to cut down on this, then let's just not do it. So last year I may have been more inclined to buy more games on the Xbox Store because I had the credit available. Versus this year, it's like no, it would actually cost me money to do so. So yeah, so Super Mario Party Jamboree, I ended up pre-ordering at the last second, um, and played it once, and it looks legit. Um, I had like three friends over so we could play 4-player games, and without really saying like how long people should stay over, I think we managed to get through three, maybe four maps of like a 10-turn game, which is the new default option. Back in my day it was 20, but having to when you're playing and we're learning the mini games, 10 turns takes a while. Um, and yeah, it was nice that like of the three, like different people won each game. I only ended up winning because like I would encounter Boo and steal stars, and then and bonus stars did affect it. And yeah, this really seemed. Whereas there were some Mario Party games that are just like, what are you doing? You dropped the ball. This one seems like a solid back to better. Well, perhaps better than good as new. Um, having only played once. But then once we did play a few maps and unlocked some progress. Unfortunately, I wasn't the first player, so I don't know how much of that saved to the account properly. But we unlocked more maps along the way and played some of the other options. And I think there's some modes that are like, play against people online and to do minigame tournaments. Sounds like it's jamboree packed. My point is, I want to uh, endorse this game, but I haven't played it too much. I did, I'm estimating like 5 hours a game versus Conga Master, which I played seemingly for 8 hours and cost me $1.11. Apparently 8 1/3 hours. Pretty straightforward game. Um, you're someone in a club, and as you who's constantly moving, and your only controls are if you want to rotate clockwise or counterclockwise in your movement. Um, the idea, and as you kind of move around people and like try to form a circle around people, or like do a figure eight, or like do a bigger circle to try to attract more people. As you stand close to people and dance, they're kind of like, "Yo, look at this conga master over here." They don't say that, but you see a heart meter above their head, and if you get all the way to fill, they join your conga line. Yeah. Um, that's really all there is to it. Well, to beat each level, you try to attract like four different categories of people. A punk, a rocker, a nerdy person. I don't remember the four categories, but it was very clear when you're attracting someone what category they are. Yeah, it had a story mode which maybe you play through a bunch of times. Maybe took 30 minutes to an hour. And once you unlocked characters, there was a kind of random thing to do to unlock them, which got hard towards the end and were harder to do, which only stretched the game out a little bit. But hey, the music was charming. It was it was retro looking and 80s references, and the game worked. It was a simple gameplay loop with a little bit of challenge to it. But not too daunting. And yeah, $1.11, man, that's great. Um, Brotato, which I'm saying is one of the best games of the year for me, released DLC, and one day it did too. It released an update which included co-op, and it also released which had a bunch some new characters as well, and it also had a paid DLC with a new level involving new enemies and a bunch more classes. And I was like, no question, even though this game's on Game Pass so far, I haven't played anything. Day one, boom, I'm there. Here's money. Which, like I'm saying, maybe that's how it should be. Put a game out on Game Pass. If your game is good, maybe people will remember your studio in the future, or maybe just go like, "Yo, if you really like this, here's more. If you want to pay, and more if you don't want to pay, that's fine." Just class act is what I'm getting at. So yeah, I paid $5.92 and got at least another 22 hours out of it. I was about to say the only game. Well, okay, yeah. Almost the only game I bought in November was Bravery and Greed. Um, like I'm saying, well, because of Game Pass, I think prior to Game Pass, I probably wouldn't like the idea of roguelike and roguelites. But then I got Game Pass, played Hades, played Slay the Spire. Suddenly, boom, it's easy. Well, roguelike is it's up there in my favorite genres. Uh, Although now that you know what I've played, you could probably see like, well, you also like open world games, and don't like multiplayer games. um, like not a yeah, you know what I mean. But I see the market has also been like, oh, people like roguelites, eh? Um, so here's another that sounded good. I think the reviews were fine. They look like the achievements were achievable for the most part. I haven't played it yet. It cost me $6.43 on November 30th. Now, would there is that when American Thanksgiving and Black Friday is? I don't know. Um, it looks like I went on a little spending spree, but this time on Steam. I think I looked at Xbox and I'm like, yeah, I don't really need to buy any of these. Hey, does Steam have any details? Does Steam have any deals? And it looks like about 5 games for a combined $13.66. Uh, Danger-esque, the Rumisode Triangulate, which I love Homestar Runner. This seems to be a point-and-click adventure set in like 3 scenes. So I don't know how long it's going to be. Um, and I think I waited for this game to be on sale. It probably has been a few times. And then I was in the mood for a spree and bought it. And I intend for this to be a PAX Kerry game, if not a play with Jason sometime game. Darkest Dungeon, $2.73. You're gonna think I'm crazy. Um, it is available on Game Pass, but I don't want to start a game. I don't want to start games and then be like, well, I didn't like that game. Now look at that. This is gonna affect my achievement ratio. So I paid $2.73 to try the game. And I played it for an hour. I got through like a missionary uh a missionary one mission which consisted of an area. Um and it's hectic. It's I don't know. Something about RPGs like I like when like I feel better and satisfied um when things like if you can establish a loop where it's like, okay, I'm at full health right now, everything's all good. Danger, 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 depleting resources, and then hooray, I've reached like a checkpoint, a save space, or maybe I've gone back to hometown and my character is refreshed. But this game, it seems, is more like no, 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 no. As you explore these dungeons, your candles are gonna run out, your characters are gonna go insane, they're gonna get have mental problems, and inevitably you're gonna lose characters, even though and you gotta just hire more. And that's the impression I got anyway. Someone might talk to me and be like, "No, you're playing the game wrong," or you're supposed to just be like, "Yeah, that happens. Hire more characters. There's enough resources to do it." But yeah, this game is supposedly great. The sequel is supposedly great, but I don't think it's for me. I think I will pass. Um, for $2.04, I bought Portal and Portal 2. Sorry, so $2.04 each. I've certainly played both these games. Portal 2 may be one of the last, well, let's say, if I were to estimate, one of the last 20 games that I pre-ordered, just because you don't know. But I'm like, Portal was great. Portal 2, sure, I'll pre-order it. And my worries were gone within seconds of the game when you talk to Wheatley, and he's voiced by Steve Merchant. I'm like, oh, this game's gonna be. Oh, put my worries aside. Yeah, so $2.04. That's yeah. Although I feel well, I'm sure at some point these games may have even been free on Steam. Maybe I just missed it. Maybe they will be. I don't know. But yeah, no, they're solid. Portal, I can see myself If I really have no idea what to play, I could totally see myself booting up Steam and just being like, yeah, sure, I'll play through Portal again. Why the heck not? Portal 2, it's long. It's got some moments that slog, which are very dramatic. But like I know the story now. Um, but the co-op, I think I'd be glad to play through again. Having only done so well in pieces. So I don't know. I haven't played it with a single. Well, yeah, played it in pieces. And for $1.35, deluxe edition of Roller Coaster Tycoon, which yeah, these roller coaster games fall into the category of games that I convince myself that I like and I'm gonna have fun. But then some, and so I'll buy them. But then sometimes just be like, oh, I get started. Oh, you know what? I forgot about this, or I really don't want to spend too much time. Eh. But $1.35, I might pick it up and be like, hey, hopefully there's a sandbox mode. I seem to recall playing this and just being like, oh, here's a park that already exists. Let's make it evil and like make roller coasters that launch people into space. um, oops. So before I get into, oh, I'm not done. There's one more. So speaking of like, oh, games. Oh, there's a typo. No, there isn't. That's how you spell that. Okay. Um, Speaking of games that did appear in headlines, uh, uh, there were a couple of headlines recently about Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, which, similar to Saints Row, is something like people were looking forward to. That once it came out, it was like, boo, this game, boo. Live, it's got live service. It's got battle passes that you gotta pay for. It's got all kinds of problems. Seemingly it's fine, but then the end game loop is just grindy and boring. Sorry, these are all things I've heard. This isn't my opinion yet. And yeah, it certainly was a game that I wish listed. I'm like, you know what? But it's still rock steady. Like in similar to Saints Row, I'm like, there might we'll see. And I think like, so when did I buy this game? I feel like 2 weeks ago. So I bought this 5 days ago, but I feel like 2 weeks ago it came down to $17, and I was like, let me just recheck those reviews. Maybe I got better over time. Sometimes you see a review, it's like, oh, is it worth playing yet? Um, and it's still just like, maybe I still look at my catalog of games, being like, maybe I don't have to pay money for this. Um, so like $17, maybe not yet, or if it comes down in price again, sure, whatever. And then boom, suddenly I saw this week the deluxe edition was on, or I managed to pick it up for like it was $5.90. So yeah, I got it for $6.71. And True Achievements put out there was an article saying like, oh yeah, Suicide Squad eventually they're not gonna support it anymore. They're done like adding new content. But here's a class act. They're now introducing like an offline mode, so anyone who wants to play the game beyond when they're supporting it can now get achievements offline. So this was supposed to be an always online game, but they've made it so like, you know what, the sun is setting on this game, but anyone who still wants to buy it now, don't worry, you can still and get achievements. That will still be possible. So it's like, good for them. Good for them. Uh, and yeah, I played. I don't think I recorded how long I did. 2.5 hours. And yeah, so far there was a charming story about these, funny, quirky characters. Playing through the tutorial, looks like they have different traversal. I was part of my discussion yesterday. I was saying, open world, fun traversal. That's what makes it a good game. They've got different options, and I decided to go with Deadshot here because he's got jetpack powers. Woo woo woo. Yeah, I if maybe I might just play through the story, which includes DC heroes and a lot of other characters and references, which I'll get a kick out of. Oh man, so far I even because I'm not gonna. So far I even went to this place that was a Batman museum, and it seemed like, well, once all the lights were on, that like all the exhibits were specifically talking about the Arkham Asylum games, and it's just like, oh, whoa, that's great. Like just giving you like a synopsis of each of those games. Like that you didn't have to do that, but it's cool. Um, yeah. So far it seems fine to me. Maybe the gameplay will get repetitive and dumb, but and just you're getting gear that's only marginally better and not really that impressive. But I might have fun for a little while. So that is all the games I've purchased this year. Before I get to the total of like, well, how much? So what's the grand total? What does this mean? What have you learned? I think it's also worthwhile to mention. Hey, don't forget another equivalent, or if you don't want to buy full price games, or you don't want to wait for them to be on sale, don't forget there's free to play games, of which I seemingly played 4 this year. Puzzle Quest 3, um, which yeah, I at first I was thinking I can't recommend. I really wish that they went back to, because yeah, Puzzle Quest, quite possibly the best game on the DS in my opinion. And then yeah, they've since had Puzzle Quest 2, Galactrix, Gems of War, and Marvel Puzzle Quest. I've sunk thousands of hours, probably thousands of hours into each of those games, hundreds for sure. But yeah, those are definitely like live service games that no, they want you to play forever, and they keep adding up updates and stuff. This yeah, Puzzle Quest 3. Yeah, I wish it went back to. I'd be glad if it was just like $20, please. Here's an experience, transaction done. But yeah, no, it's frustrating that it's just like, okay, you play the game, and there's like 5 different types of currencies to do different things, and you don't know why you're still playing. And what really grinded my gears about this one is that they changed how turns work, where part of the charm and strategy of Puzzle Quest is like, you got a bejeweled grid, and you got to think before you make each move of like, okay, if I move, like I swap these tiles, these ones will break, and then these ones will fall into place, and then it'll be the opponent's turn. So you got to also think about what moves do I want to make to prevent my opponent from making the moves they want to make. Problem is, in Puzzle Quest 3, you make like 3 or 5 or more turn moves at a time, and so do your opponents, which makes it all the impossible really to predict how all the gems are gonna fall and what the board's gonna look like at the end of your turn. So really, there's nothing you can really do to control what the opponent's gonna do, and I think that takes out way too much of the strategy. Also, it seemed like the enemy was doing damage to you every turn anyway, and it's like that's dumb. But at some point during the year, I realized, oh, there is like a story mode, and I am getting through and playing it and having some fun. So you know what? I'll beat that. Look at whatever achievements I think I can mop up, and try not to unlock any achievements in the updates and DLCs. So I got 30 hours out of it and reached a. This is good enough for me. Um, yeah. Stumble guys, I looked at this and I'm like, are you kidding me? They're not even trying to not protect. They're not even trying to hide that they're Fall Guys. They even kept one of the words, and the other word, like Fall Guys, to my understanding, was originally supposed to be called Stumble Chums. So you're not even trying. So but yeah, it's a Fall Guys. It's a Fall Guys you should play if you want to win Fall Guys. Because there's not enough players anymore, so you're against bots a lot. Um, and yeah, and you play to get skins, and you can pay for a battle pass if you want, or there's a free one. And you play as you play games, the more you play and win, or even just contribute, you get more mission rewards, which you get towards skins. It's good, clean, free to play fun. Um, yeah, and it is funny because it's like, well, a funny thing about it when I say like, oh, it's all bots, but how do you know? How can you tell, Kerry? Maybe you're just better than everyone. Sometimes there'd be games where it'd be like, okay, it's very survival based. This one particular round where like you start on a boat and then the boat crashes, and the point of the game is to not land in the water the longest. Um, if so many people fall into are eliminated, then the round is over. And so when you're on this boat that's just sailing along, hits an iceberg, and like you see like 20 to 30 other players on this boat, and then the boat starts sinking, and you see all the bots start moving at the exact same second. Like and it's just like, okay, anyone who is controlling themselves is a human opponent for sure, and you'd be like, and that is about two of you maybe. um, yeah, Ping Redux. I saw it was free on the store. It's a game that you try to shoot a ball into a target with limited number of bounces against the walls. Really came in handy in days 10 and 11 of the True Achievements 12 Days of Christmas. Oh yeah, so I got 2 hours out of it. And very recently, I started playing Marvel Rivals. I've played 2 hours so far. So there was a bit of a tutorial with three of the characters: Punisher, Bruce Banner slash the Hulk, and Rocket Raccoon, who are representatives of the three types or categories of tank, support, or shootery. Shootery. Um, and I'm like, oh, okay, but there's like 30 different characters to play as. Can I get more tutorial, please? I was like, nah. They're like, well, okay. Rocket can heal. As long as I don't know what I'm doing, at least if I can heal people, I can feel like I'm contributing. Then I tried playing other characters, and I was like, why am I just dying right away? I watched a video. They gave me 17 tips, and I'm like, oh, Loki's a healer? And after watching this video, the next game I played, I got like a 12 KO assist streak, and I'm like, oh, okay, this game I'm slightly better, and it's certainly like, well, if I'm winning, I'm having fun. Now, unlike the downside is surprisingly, Stumble Guys seems like it respects the player better. Um, because it looks like you play this game and it's like, hey, here's the battle pass. You want to pay money to join the battle pass, right? You don't have to, but you want to, right? And I'm like, nah. And I see, okay, there are missions, and I'm beating the missions and getting some sort of purple currency. I don't see what it buys. I can only see stuff that is available for sale that costs other currencies, which cost money. And I saw one section where it's like, oh, okay, here's where you can spend purple, but these things don't unlock until you get a lot of purple. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. So I guess I'm just playing this game for fun. Who does that? As far as achievements goes, there's a couple generic ones like win 100 times, play for the first time, so I'm locked in. And then each character has their own specific achievement, which kind of sounds like, yeah, they might come over the natural course of gameplay, maybe. Like I think Rocket Raccoons might be get assists while people on your team are other Guardians of the Galaxy. Fair enough. I just gotta play enough until that happens. But Loki's is like stab someone in the back and KO them, and this is like, okay, but I'm playing as a healer. But Loki does have an ultimate ability where he can become any other player, or like their character, like a copy of them. So I think you're supposed to be like, hey, look, other team, I'm the Punisher, but on your team. And they go, well, I'm not gonna shoot the guy on my team. And then you're supposed to like, okay, thanks, because I'm on. Thanks for not killing me, because I'm on your team. Backstab. But that so unfortunately, the kicker about doing that is if you have these achievements, I might encourage people to do specific things and not necessarily just try to be a good player on the team. So I'm more focused on trying to be a good player on the team, try to win, try to help the team. Um, so we'll see where that ends up. But that's about the only game that I've played this year that requires like multiplayer with randos online. Oh boy, except for headbangers and stumble guys. Okay, so back to I've left you in suspense long enough. Let's get to the thrilling conclusion of how much do I spend on video games. Oh, look at that! I got a spreadsheet. Now let's see if I can find the exciting part. Scrolling. Oh. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna. I could. Well, don't really want to be like, oh, let's hide things. Okay. And if you were just listening and not watching, there's numbers on the screen, or you could just, it's. I could leave you in suspense, and I'll just say what the numbers are. Um, So in total this year, I purchased 43 games for a combined total of $455.20 Canadian, um, which results in an average price of $10.59, which I think is really good. um, right? Like it's like okay, games these as they come out, are 50, 60, 80, $90. Sometimes you'll find like a Balatro where they're like, you know what? No, we'll cut you a break, charge you 20 or 30, and give you a rewarding experience. Just don't expect AAA stuff. But I'm someone who plays games all the time. $10 a game, it's pretty good. But then this is like, well, hold on though. But I don't think you said like of all the games you mentioned, I don't think you said a price of over $10 quite that much. um, so the median price, which reflects like okay, 50% of the games are higher than this price, 50% are lower, is $5.28. Meaning that like most games that I buy are like $5 or less. um, then I think it's worthwhile to also factor in like, okay, but as I mentioned earlier, sometimes I buy games out of like just respect for the publisher to be like, here's a tip jar. Doesn't happen too often. You think that sounds like what a Patreon subscriber would do. So I also split it into terms of okay, two categories: games that I've played, games that I don't play, or I think like, oh, I might enjoy this later, so I'll just buy it now. Okay, so the games I've played though, the average is $13. And the median isn't affected that much. It's but still less than $6 at $5.92. That reflects 28 of the 43 games I've purchased this year. And then $75 for 15 games I purchased this year but did not play. And if you're like, what? That's well, I can't scroll now. What am I talking about? They're the games I either intend to play. Yeah, that those three games on a bundle for $2.99. Saints Row Remastered, Pizza, Possum, and games on Steam that I'm like, I should just own these. That's where 15 comes from. But the median price for those games, $2.24. So yeah, I can be talked into buying a game even if I'm not going to play it, at least not now, if it's $2 and a quarter. And the average is $5, which does sound. But no, I think like Saints Row would have been $8. I'm like $5 sounds. No, it doesn't. But then I was looking at these numbers, and it occurred to me that so I did buy two games at full price. Now I even think Baldur's Gate 3 may have been 10% off, let's say, if that. And you know what? Good for Larian Studios. they released a game that was Game of the Year. Um, there's not going to be an equivalent to it. And I hear they keep working on it, keep supporting it to make it better. I think like a week before the Game Awards, they're like, here's, I don't know if it was version 8 or whatever, but they added multiple subclasses to all the classes. Like, they can stop. And these updates are all free. I've seen a few memes where it's just like, no, Larian, please, I can give you money. Stop giving me free updates. So you know what? They delivered a demonstrated high quality product. It's for a price that it's worth. Respect. There's some respect to being like, you know what, it's priced what it is. And I'm not, and I, over the years I've said Nintendo, and this is perhaps why I don't really. I used to be a Nintendo fanboy before Xbox 360, but I'm not anymore because it's just like the Nintendo prices never come down, and I think that's ludicrous. But it is a neat thing. Like, did they not understand the used market at all? But I think it's a neat thing that they're just like, you know what? No, and it kind of makes sense too. Like, especially with retro collectors, like with every Nintendo console that comes out, like there are certain first party titles that even in the future, everyone who buys that console, even if it's retro, are gonna buy these games. Like, everyone's gonna buy Mario 64. Everyone's gonna like all the Mario games, all the Zelda games. So it really doesn't make sense for Zelda, like Breath of the Wild, let's say Tears of the Kingdom, to ever be $20. Um, because even in the future, the value of the games are only going to go up. I don't know. I just think it's funny. Where's I going with that? Oh yeah, and Square Enix, or at least I'm trying to buy Kingdom Hearts games. Memories. It's either Memories of Melodies or Melodies of Memories. Won't drop below 30. um, and neither, even like the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC won't drop below, I think, like 20, maybe 15, and it's just like, come on. Okay, fine, then I won't buy it then. How do you like that? Okay, but point, or where I was going, the revelation I also noticed was like, well, okay, well, I'll just say it. 40% of, of the total amount I've paid this year was for two games. Boulder's Gate, or combined, I should say. Boulder's Gate and Super Mario Party Jamboree. Actually, Kerry, it's like 39.6%. Whatever. So if I take these two games, which are outliers, right, then the averages, like the medians, are marginally changed, but that it drops the average just down from $10 to $6, and of the games I've played, the average drops from $13 to $7.69. So except for these two outliers, which represent 40%, like, okay, so 40 games, 43 games I bought, two of them account for, let's see, not 5%, but 40%. Um, so other than these two games, on average, the games I buy cost $6.70, and I think the whole point is, I think this is supplemented by having so many games freely available by the Game Pass subscription, by Epic Games releasing free games all the time, even like the Nintendo Plus subscription, has tons of classic Nintendo games available. Um, Plus, like backlogs and free to play titles as well, and mobile games might even, you don't need to pay. I don't know. I just think the economy of the game industry is interesting. It is surprising, especially when you look at all the credits and be like, how does a game I bought for $60 pay for, and you go through the credits and like thousands of names go by? Like, how does that make sense? Ah, apparently, I just got an achievement. Oh, yes. Octodad. That was very delayed. I think that may have been last week, and the achievement didn't unlock, but it just did and startled me. Um, yeah, $6.70 on average, save for two games I bought at full or close to full price. That's pretty good. I think that's really good. I think that's amazing. Um, and I just think maybe well, I think this might just go to show that what my gaming addiction and lifestyle is paid for by other people who are willing to pay full price. It's got and by whales who can be suckered into paying more than they should or more than is reasonable for video games. Um, I just didn't want to show my spreadsheet. So here's Marvel Rivals. It's not necessarily tied to what I just said. Otherwise, it's also worth noticing. Game hardware. Apparently, I didn't buy any this year. Tabletop RPG materials. The new, not so new edition of D&D uh, is released or is releasing still. So I bought the player's handbook for $41 and the new Dungeon Master's Guide. Nope, that's not it. For $58. So so I spent $455 on video games this year. $100.59 on tabletop RPG materials and zero board games. Nothing on digital art supplies or inspiration or lessons. Pretty cheap here. Good for me. Um, and good for you if you're able to listen to this entire thing. Hope you liked hearing numbers and learning about the one gamer's spending habits. Yeah. Now it's time for recess or bed. I don't know what you're doing. But either way, hope you are having fun.